Grand solar flash, is it almost here? What will the event actually be? And are you ready? How intense will the solar flash be? What will it feel like? Question your reality, then change it. It's time to enter the portal to the new earth. Choose your frequency. Drop your attachments. ThunderWizard.com is the website that supports this YouTube channel. Please check it out, and please support the channel in any way you feel led to do so. There's so much information that I've made available and so many practices, and I encourage you to check those out. All my books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com, including the 2 that I've written about this subject that we're talking about here, or at least subjects that include this subject. Right, so the solar flash, how intense is it going to be? By the way, just to let you know, I am feeling a lot better than this morning when I made the video. I really was carrying around a lot of intense emotions, and so that seemed to help. So I am feeling better, at least for the moment. So I wanted to make this video a while ago, but then I had other experiences which took precedence. So the solar flash event, as you know, you may know my history about this. I didn't believe that the solar flash event, I didn't even know what it was. I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of most of this stuff. And to be honest, it's just the fact, I mean, in all seriousness, every time I make these videos now, I mean, there's a part of me that goes, I can't believe I'm making these videos, because they're just so out there and so ridiculous sounding. But I can't deny my experiences. So I share my understandings with you, my experiences. All right, so the solar flash event. I had never heard of it, as you know. I didn't even. It's not a question of whether I believed in it. I didn't even know anything about it. Certainly, if I had heard of it, I would have instantly rejected it as anything of significance. So. The solar flash event, as the modern mythology surrounding it, is that there will come an unavoidable ascension event, a massive instant ascension event, where high frequency gamma radiation coming from what people are calling the central sun of our galaxy, which really would mean the black hole at the center of our galaxy, that this sends higher dimensional energy to our sun, and then our sun releases this in a flash event, and when it hits Earth, everything shifts up. The entire, all of the matter, the molecules shift up to a higher frequency, and this brings a complete shift into a new age. And it's an instantaneous process. So that's what we are told. There's some bug flying around. What a surprise, Florida. By the way, there is a hurricane barreling towards Florida as I speak. Thankfully, I'm probably in the best spot to avoid any real damage. It's going to be windy and a little bit of rain, but I should be fine. But in case I disappear for a couple of days, that's why. Or the solar flash came and I disappeared. So, yeah, that's the mythology that people believed. I didn't know that until after I had been shown, after talking to, for the first time, doing Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind CE5 protocols. Even after that, I still didn't know anything about it. My greatest shock and surprise, I created relationships with higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings of light who continue to communicate with me to this very day. And so they gave me a dream one night. And in this dream, I saw, I won't go into the details, but I saw an event in the sky that was of a profoundly spiritual nature that everybody would see, that it would completely shift their understanding of spirituality. And the feeling I had was that everything was going to be different, and then the dream ended. So I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that was. I had this overwhelming feeling from that there was going to be some huge spiritual event and visual event. And so in meditation, I summoned the light beings and I asked them to tell me what is this? The only thing I could conclude was that some fleet of spaceships was going to come and people were going to have the same experience I had. They were going to communicate with these higher dimensional beings, and then they would all have a shift. That's the only way I could have imagined it. So I said, what is this event going to be? Is it going to be fleets of spaceships? And the answer was no. It's going to be a series of solar waves of love that are going to hit the earth, penetrate the earth, and shift everything up. And as always with these interactions and with these communications, the nature of them, if you've had them, you know what I'm talking about. As always, I went, that I'm making this up. This is nonsense. I must be imagining this. And I said as much on a live stream, and somebody said, no, that's a real thing. It's called the solar flash, or the event. And so I went and looked it up, and I shared with you what I found out. Higher dimensional solar frequencies coming from the central sun of our galaxy through a wormhole into the sun and then released onto the earth, and it's mad. Wow. So, I couldn't help but, and I have to say, at that point in my experience with light beings, it was so revolutionary and so bizarre and so very real that I thought the flash was going to come any day. I was telling people, I was emailing people or sending people messages and telling them, listen, I might not be here soon, the world is going to shift, and so if I disappear, that's why, and it's going to happen really soon. It's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, because I just had a dream about it, so I thought, it's coming day after tomorrow. I tried to predict when it was going to happen. Obviously, I did not succeed at that. So we have had that the message, my experience of the message has been true, which is that there has been series of solar waves that have hit the earth, and they officially began in December of 2022, and I was shown that that's when it started. The night before, I was doing my meditations, and I was taken to some big giant place, and there was all kinds of beings in their astral bodies, not a bunch of other humans in their astral bodies, and they're all gathered around, and we were being told, it's going to start tomorrow. That's the beginning of it. That's when it all starts. Everything's going to change starting tomorrow, and you've been called here because of blah, blah, blah. So of course I woke up, and I don't know, whatever, and I went back to sleep. But sure enough, that next day I woke up to the sun doing all kinds of crazy stuff and going outside and seeing strange, looking things in the sky in terms of the sky looked different. Everything looked and felt different. And from that point on, every time that we had a solar storm, my body felt it. And the communications went through the roof during these times. And I could go into the science behind why I think that is, but that's a whole other subject. And so I really became a believer in this. And twice I had light beings come to me and say, we're going to take you to 5D. That's not necessarily the words that they use, but that's how I interpret it and interpreted it. And so I showed up that day expecting to be taken on a spaceship to a different universe called 5D. That didn't happen. But what did happen was that day I was hit with such powerful energies that completely shifted me up to a totally different mindset. And I was just in this blissful, clearly tons of DMT going through my brain. I was just, I've talked about it before, but I was shifted up to that. And it lasted a good part of a day. And then I came down and came back down to normal. And I was given that a second time. A second time I was given that, some Pleiadians came and they asked me what I wanted. And I said, I want to go to 5D. I want to know if this thing is real. And they said, okay. And the next day, boom, same thing. I was walking around for hours just in this other completely different, very, very spiritually minded state. So I knew that this state existed, what we call 5D. So the question is whether or not this solar flash thing is going to bring us there. So I've got a list of possible scenarios which we can walk through, because as much as I wish I could tell you, as much as I wish I could come and be a prophet and say, I met with aliens and here's what they said. They told me here's exactly what's going to happen and here's when. There's no shortage of people out there that believe that, and whether they're channelers or spiritually minded people, or whether they're whatever it is that their thing is, there's no shortage of people out there talking about this stuff and giving their interpretations. So we're going to take a look at it, and I'll give you my latest opinion based on my experiences, because again, none of this can be predicted. Although I do find it very convenient that, as we've been talking about, that the yugas correspond directly with where we are. And if there was going to be a time when there was going to be a massive, sudden shifting up, this is it. This is, directly opposite the Younger Dryas Cataclysm, where things, fell down, instantly overnight. It would make sense that when we're on the other side of this 26,000 year cycle, that it could shift up instantly. So that seems to make a lot of sense. All right, but let's go through the possibilities here. I got to remind myself never to take walks at night again, because there's just too many bugs out here. And I take a walk at night and I come back and I've got bites all over me. You don't even see them. You don't even feel them when you're out there. It's not until you get back that you realize, my God, I just got eaten alive. That's Florida for you. All right, so where am I? We're taking a look at this. All right, so first possibility, solar flash event, possible scenario, total nothing like Y2K. It's a possibility. There's a couple of people, I honestly don't know why they even watch the channel, to be honest, but every time that I talk about this, or there's some, I think there's some big event coming or something like that, they usually always say something like, nothing ever happens. I'll see you the day after. Nothing ever happens, nothing's going to happen. And so far they've been right. So far, I shouldn't say nothing has happened. A lot of things have happened, but they haven't been these massive world-changing events. So that has yet to take place. So first possible scenario, total nothing like Y2K. Those of you who are too young to know, Y2K was at the beginning of 2000, and we thought that the whole world was going to end, and it was just because people didn't have, their programs on their computers didn't have the ability to talk about anything after 1999. So be the end of the world because nobody'd be able to sign their checks or something. And of course, nothing happened. All right. Next possibility is a global extinction event, planet killer. This is what the deep state is afraid of. This is what the billionaire class is afraid of. There's a reason why billionaires are actively seeking to create programs to block out the sun. This is why billionaires have their underground lairs that they've built on Hawaii. It's a thing. Billionaires are doing it. They're building these underground survival bunkers. It's a reason why they do that, because they know you can't become the billionaire controlling class and control everything if you don't have some understanding of things. So they understand that something is coming, and they rightly believe it will be the end of the world, because it will be the end of the world for them. It will completely destroy their ability to keep control, and for them that would be the end of their world. So, but they believe that the solar flash is going to come, and they believe that it's going to be a planet killer. They think it's going to be major solar radiation that will start fires, and the whole planet will burn up. That's what they believe, and that's why they think they're going to ride it out in their bunkers. So that's the second option, is a global extinction event, a planet killer. The next one is possibly a Carrington event, a civilization killer. So the Carrington event was a massive solar storm that hit Earth in the late 1800s, and of course the only thing they had at that point is they had what the heck is that? I can't remember what they call that. You sit, you type, I forget what that stuff is called. Anyway, but there was the solar storm was so intense that there was, all around the world, there was northern lights everywhere. The entire world was covered with them, and people were waking up in the middle of the night thinking it was morning, but it wasn't. It's just that there was these massive, northern lights in the sky everywhere, and it ended up shorting out whatever electricity was there, and anyway, big deal. And if that were to happen now, a lot of people believe. Many people believe it would completely, totally destroy all our civilization. It would get rid of our ability to have electricity, get rid of the internet, get rid of everything, and so potential civilization killer. So that's another possibility. Carrington event. Next one I've got is the 2012 event, long-term shift. So 2012 came and went. I was there. Maybe you were there as well. And nothing happened. Came and went. However, something did happen. We just didn't necessarily experience it. But the 2012 prophecy actually was the actual beginning of the new shift up. And it was really a time marker. It's sort of like the official beginning of winter or the official beginning of spring or summer. It doesn't mean that it was any different from the day before. It doesn't necessarily mean anything huge. It's just a demarcation point. And from that point on, we're going to start moving towards spring, summer. Things are going to start changing. The weather's going to get different. And eventually we'll look back and go, wow, it's totally different than it was 3 months ago. And so 2012, you really start seeing the Mandela effect really coming into gear after 2012. And you really start seeing people waking up. For a lot of people, it was 2001, 9/11. But 2012, from then, that's when you really started seeing all of these, supposed tinfoil hat people who were, making up nonsense. Of course, they weren't. They were waking up to the reality of what this world's about. The veil was beginning to open. And the 2012 prophecy didn't say it was going to be the end of the world. It said it was the beginning of the new world. So again, it's like a demarcation point. And now in hindsight, we look back, it really was. Things really started to begin to change at that point. So is the solar flash event going to be like that? I don't know. Possible events, it could be a sudden massive shift. That's why people call it the solar flash. By the way, I haven't started drinking. This is ginger ale. So what was I talking about? Yeah, so it could be a sudden massive shift, or it could be a cumulative event with a final massive event, which we'll talk about at the end, because I think that's probably what's going to happen. Some other possibilities. Everything shifts. So this is the way that it's been presented. This is definitely the feeling that I had a couple of years ago after the dream that I had. And it made for an interesting experience, especially 2023, because that's when we were, beginning of 2023, we were really getting hammered with these solar storms. And I was just in another state of mind the whole time. I was getting, the solar storms, what happens is that the solar radiation hits Earth and the Earth's magnetic field weakens significantly. So what ends up happening then is that the higher dimensional beings, the extraterrestrials, they communicate with higher electromagnetic fields. So the telepathic communications, the reason why I say when I get them I feel this huge amount of energy is because it's an electromagnetic frequency that's above ours. So there's, when I get when I get them, here's how it is. When I get telepathic messages from physical extraterrestrials, like my friend here, when I get messages from them, they're physical beings, but they're in either a frequency above us or a dimension above us, so we don't physically see them. But you feel their energy. So, if you're getting a direct communication from an extraterrestrial, you're going to feel this huge electromagnetic, just what I call jolts of energy. You're going to feel that. My experience with the deities, however, or beings in really high dimensional places, or beings that don't have physical bodies, we would call them spirits, I may or may not get an energetic jolt along with the message. Sometimes, though, the messages are very subtle, and some of those subtle messages have been the most accurate. So, in any case, when we get hit with solar radiation, it creates a dynamic where we're much more able to receive telepathic messages from actual physical extraterrestrial beings. So that's why when we get hit with these solar storms, that's why that's when I tend to get most of my messages, because it's sort of like the connection is able to get there. Because our electromagnetic field is really our third dimensional shield. And so when our electromagnetic field around our planet is strong, this is why we don't think that any other life exists out there. People are much less spiritual. It's because it literally it's a barrier. So when we get hit with these solar storms, the electromagnetic field weakens considerably, and then the messages can get in much more clearly. So everything shifts is one idea. Another one is an earth split, lower and higher earths. So there's belief out there that it just is two earths are created. There's a lower dimensional 3D earth and a higher dimensional 5D earth. And anyway, that's pretty clear. I guess, people have been talking about this. I'm still doing research. I'd love to hear what other people have to say, and unfortunately I have to slog through a bunch of channelers. I got to tell you, it's sad that there are so many frauds out there and so many deluded people out there. It saddens me because it just muddies the water. But anyway, it is what it is. And so I'm listening to what people have to say, and I have to slog through all of the nonsense. The handful of people that I've listened to who I have a better feeling about are saying pretty clear that it's going to be, let's see, what were we talking about again? Going to be, they talk about it as a two-layer shift. That some people say that the flash is going to come, and then some people will experience it and some people will tune it out. So you got two people standing next to each other. One person has a huge awakening event and the other person doesn't. And so then that either creates an instantaneous shift where there's two earths, higher dimensional, lower dimensional, or it creates an event where then slowly everything starts moving apart from each other until eventually the two worlds can't interact with each other. So I don't know. And there are people talk about there will be a bridge where for a while you can go back and forth between the two. How literal that, and I've some people talk about that being a literal bridge between two different realities, and some people talk about it like it's a symbolic thing, like all the people are still around, but you can still interact with them, but you're on a higher plane of awareness, and slowly that awareness will take over the whole earth. All kinds of different ways of looking at it. The harmonic shift of three earths. This is an interesting one. This is the one, a belief that I am very open to. And the reason for that isn't because this idea of two earths is not something that I originally was very fond of. It didn't make sense to my brain. A flash of light hitting the earth, shifting everything up, well then everything gets shifted up. All of the murderers and the bad people suddenly awaken and become great people. That's the way I was looking at it. That's what made sense to me. The idea of there being two different earths or three different earths, that sounded, I didn't like that idea, and it didn't make sense to me. I started listening to it because somebody came to me and shared, that they had seen it as like a harmonic, three different harmonic vibrations of the same earth, but three different harmonic versions of it. And I didn't accept that. I listened to it, and this was one of my apprentices, so I listened to it and I meditated on it. And then sure enough, one night light beings showed up, and I woke up and was getting ready to turn over and go back to sleep. And I'm telling you, there was a piano in my bedroom, and somebody went bing, 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 and I heard that. I mean, it was very clear. I heard that as if it was right there in the room with me. And I went, oh, okay, so you're saying that this is, it's three. It's a harmonic shift of 3 different Earths. Turned over, went back to sleep, woke up again, a couple hours later, and whoever there were still waiting for me. And once again, bing, 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 somebody playing a piano with 3, notes, 3 octaves of the same note. And so, having that experience in the same night, literally some being waiting there for hours for me to, wake up out of, they didn't wake me up. They were very patient. They waited for me to naturally come out of, as we do. We wake up and turn around and go back to sleep. It happens all night. And so hearing 2 of those in the same sleep cycle as I was awake, I wasn't asleep, I was awake when I heard it. I went, okay, so I heard you. This wasn't just me. I woke up and I had some strange, lingering dream. This is somebody trying to get my attention. So I went, okay, I hear you. It's going to be an octave. It's going to be, Earth will split into 3 octaves. So I went, got it. Not because it made sense to me or because I had the feeling about it or it was my intuition. It was somebody, some other, dimensional being seemed very intent on me understanding the concept and accepting it. So that's why I believe that. Ever since then, it's made more sense. I went back into meditation afterwards and I said, can you explain this to me? And it was a feminine being. It might have even been a goddess, I can't remember. But it was a feminine being, and she said, what happens when sunlight hits Earth? We have rainbows. And rainbows are different frequencies. It's one color, it's one light. It's white light. It's not multiple light. It's one light, white light beam coming in. It gets hit. It hits, a cloud or some moisture, and then it gets split into different frequencies. The colors of the rainbow. There's multiple colors you're looking at. They're all different. They're all different frequencies of light. So that's how it was explained to me, that these 3 octaves are going to be different frequencies. And so when the solar flash hits, bam, it's going to create different frequencies, just like, white light hitting a cloud creates a rainbow. And so depending on where people are at, their frequency will determine what color they live in, what color they experience, what level. So again, that's what my current belief system is, not because it makes sense to me necessarily, but because that's how it's been explained to me, and that makes sense. It makes almost scientific sense. So, harmonic shift of 3 Earths. The lower Earth experiences a cataclysm. This is another theory. I'm not telling you what happens. It's another theory. The lower Earth experiences a cataclysm. Higher Earth experiences orgasmic birth. So my current belief on the Yuga shift here, you've heard me talking about it, this Younger Dryas climate catastrophe where Atlantis was destroyed and all of the civilizations were destroyed and many of the animals were wiped off, in one day, saber-toothed tigers and, whatever else we had. Saber-toothed tigers and elephants all over the world and all kinds of stuff. All the megafauna just disappeared overnight. So obviously the third dimensional explanation is that there was massive floods that just flooded everything and killed everything, unless something could hide, and fires that wiped out entire forests and ecosystems. So if there isn't any food, then the animals on the highest part of the food chain are the first to go, because they're eating the animals on the lower part of the food chain. And if there's less of those, then the higher, the saber-toothed tigers and all that, they die off because there isn't nearly the amount of antelope or deer or whatever that they feed off of, because those are almost going into extinction, or many of them do. So that's the third dimensional explanation. But another way to look at it is that like the Mandela effect, where some people remember the past differently. My take is that there are some people that are remembering a past that didn't happen, that the past is being rewritten based on our reverse projection, based on our current mindset. Like, for instance, there are things that didn't happen. For instance, Kennedy's car. Kennedy, because I literally was born just before that happened, so I lived with it. I grew up watching, continuously seeing the same, Zapruder film for decades of him driving around that corner in Dallas, Texas, and it was a two-seater. It was two benches. There was two people in front and two people in the back, and that's it. And so now the past is different. The Zapruder film changed, by the way. It didn't used to have those little squares on the side of it. Now when you watch the Zapruder film, you see the little, the spokes, the spool spokes. That wasn't there. So many things about that have changed. So that's just one example. And I believe that Mandela effect exists because people have become more frightened and have become more militaristic and more violent in their thinking. And so when they look back in the past, they create a more violent, frightening past. And it was a different world in the 60s. It just wasn't that big of a deal for the president to drive down the street in an open car. It wasn't that big of a deal back then. Now you can't do that, but back then you could. Anyway, so I forgot where I was going with that. Let's see, what were we talking about? We were talking about lower Earth experience cataclysm. So so the cataclysm of the Younger Dryas. From a third dimensional perspective, it was this cataclysm of the destruction of everything, floods, fire, almost killed everything off, destroyed all of the civilization, left no trace of it. That's how we look at it. That's the evidence that would have been the experience of a third dimensional person. But after I had been talking with my Pleiadian/Atlantean friends, I said, so are we going to rebuild Atlantis? And they said, oh, Atlantis didn't go anywhere. Atlantis is still here. It's on a higher, it's still at a higher version. It didn't disappear. Lower dimensional version of Atlantis was destroyed. So it's all really, how we interpret our reality. We currently don't have the spiritual ability. We don't have the consciousness frequency to be able to see those old civilizations, those crystal cities of light, Atlantis. We can't see them. They're there. We just can't see them because our frequency is too low. So we bring that to the upcoming shift, and people who say there's going to be a higher Earth and a lower Earth. One way of looking at that is that the shift will hit people of a higher frequency, and they will they'll wake up to what's already here, this beautiful world and a beautiful earth. People that have a lower frequency shift, when the flash hits, they will be knocked down a peg. And so in order for their brains to process it, they will manifest some kind of cataclysm. The earth blowing up, or, fires and, comets hitting the earth, or who knows what. The higher earth experiences an orgasmic birth. So this theory is that that's what's going to happen. The shift happens and people will have a perception based on that. If your perception is lower, you're going to perceive and experience, or they will, not you. Of course, you won't, because you're watching my channel, so you're going to shift up. But those other people, whoever they are, they're going to see massive catastrophes and all of that because of their awareness and their conscious or unconscious rejection of the higher frequency will force them to create the world that aligns with them rejecting that, which would be this horrible cataclysm. But for those people who shift up, would it be an orgasmic, blissful experience? I've been, listening to people who say that's what it's going to be like. That the flash will hit and everybody will feel it, and whether it's a blissful experience that they surrender to, or whether it's a really, really frightening, anxiety, panic-inducing experience that they reject, is really based on whether or not you surrender to it. Now, I can relate to this understanding because when I was a kid, when I was 7 years old, I had an experience where I had an out-of-body experience. I was asleep and I was pulled out of my body. And as I was pulled out of my body, it was just like doing CE5. I went through the atmosphere, and as I was in Earth's magnetic field, I could see and hear and feel all of the human panic and emotions, and it was all the chaos of all the humans' stuff. And then I went through Earth's magnetic field, and all of that was gone, and it was peaceful. Now you understand why I, lead the interdimensional meditations the way that I do, because that's exactly my experience. It's exactly my experience when this happened to me, that once you're out of Earth's magnetic field, all of that emotional static and chaos and craziness is gone, and there's just this peace, this emptiness. So I was pulled up through Earth's atmosphere into space, and then off in the distance there was this bright white light, and I got pulled towards this light, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I was in the light. I was completely absorbed and surrounded by it, and it was absolutely orgasmic. Now, I was 7 years old. I didn't know what that was, and it wasn't like I physically had that go on. Energetically, emotionally, psychologically, there was this explosion of bliss, and it was very uncomfortable at first. It felt like it was killing me. It was too much. It was, and I remember feeling a resistance to it. But again, just like your first real orgasm, until you've had it, you don't know what the heck it is, and then when you have it, you're like, oh my God. But those first moments before, you're like, maybe that was your experience. That was my experience. I thought something broke. I didn't know what was happening. My first physical experience of that, I didn't know what the hell happened. Because we weren't educated back then. Back in the early 70s, kids didn't have all of the education they do now about what happens, during. Anyway, so So yeah, me, I was 7 years old. So I pulled out of my body and I'm pulled into this and I'm expanding in this instantaneous orgasmic bliss, blinding white light, surrounded by a blinding white light. And my physical etheric body just disappeared and I was one with this light. And it was just pure, absolute, utter, complete bliss beyond anything I had ever experienced. I still can't even describe what it was like. It was so unbelievably blissful. And I said, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. And then it slowly started to back off. And I was like, no, 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 I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. And I ended up being pulled back into my body and I woke up. So that's one of the theories as well, that when the flash hits, there'll be two distinct reactions. Really only two possible reactions. You either surrender to the experience and you let the bliss, orgasmic bliss, completely take over you, and who knows where we end up, or you fight it and you end up crashing down. Okay, so so that's what people talk about. Similar to 3D, but happier, ? So that's my question. What is it going to be like? Is it going to be just a more cool version of 3D, or is it going to be something else? A lot of people think that it's going to be something else, that there will be a whole other aspect to it, where we'll be sort of in and out, more like light beings, where we're able to physically manifest or disappear and shift and, travel just by thought and be able to just manifest things through intention. So, that's something that I'm wondering about. What's it going to be like afterwards? What is this reality going to be like? We may not be able to comprehend it yet. And so is it going to be similar to 3D, but just happier, or is it going to be more like actual dimensional shift with light bodies and extra dimensional properties that we're not aware of? As I say that, I'm getting energy as I'm saying that, so maybe that's what it is. That sounds nice. I just want to be able to surf. That's the one thing that I still want from this 3D. I want to be able to surf. Maybe surfing will be better. Maybe I don't know what I'm missing out on. Anyway, so those are all of my thoughts there about the solar flash event, possible scenarios. Bottom line is, it doesn't make sense to my 3D mind. I wouldn't even consider such things if I hadn't had the higher dimensional experiences that I've had and the communications that I've had and continue to have with these beings, and all of the bizarre, reality being revealed to me to be so much more bizarre than anything I could have possibly imagined. By the way, this is how I know when somebody's a fraud or they're delusional, because they talk about this stuff in ways that I would have imagined back before, I had these experiences. Once you've gone out of the third dimension and you've experienced beyond the third dimension, there are aspects of it that you cannot make up. You wouldn't have imagined in your third dimensional mind. You wouldn't have been able to. Again, it's like a two-dimensional person trying to imagine up or down. It's not possible. So this is how I know. This is why the majority of channelers and psychics I discount, because I can tell within the first couple of words whether or not they're making it up or deluded, because they're creating fantasies out of their third dimensional mind. They're either making it up or they're actually having unconscious delusional fantasies. but it always follows third dimensional laws. And people who've been outside of 3D, I can tell within the first few words whether they've gone, because they will talk about it in ways that you can't know unless you've been there. Sort of like people who've been in battle. You can look at them and they don't have to say anything. You just look them in the eye and they know that you know that they know that you know. And other people don't get it, but they can see, they can see each other. That guy went to battle, that guy went to battle. So I can tell when somebody's been to higher dimensions or not. Anyway, enough of that. That's it, my friends. Again, I'm feeling better. We'll see. Hopefully I'll even feel a lot better tomorrow. Making the video this morning seems to help. Maybe I needed to just get it out and apologize to the universe for whatever I may have done. That was 13,000 years ago. I'm ready to let that go. But it was important. I'll end the video with this. My feeling at the moment, this isn't a psychic prediction, it's just my feeling. My feeling at the moment is I'm done with Earth. Because all of my experiences make sense now. All of the spiritual experiences I had, which didn't make any sense, and I didn't know where to put them, I didn't know how to explain them. They were just these weird anomalous events that I couldn't make sense of. And I would just tune them out because I couldn't, they were so bizarre and so weird. And then when I started understanding them, I didn't understand the purpose of them. But now it all makes sense. And this last experience where the Pleiadians finally gave me the real understanding of why I have been doing this work and why we've been doing these meditations, which have been shifting, and why we've had such incredible power in our meditative journeys, and the unbelievable nature of the power of those meditations. I understand now. I understand my role and why that was really the main reason I physically was born in this life. I mean, I had all of my experiences and my karma and all that stuff that we all have had, but the real reason that I came to this planet this time was to lead those meditations, especially up until August 14th. That was the reason I was put on this planet, was to achieve that. And this latest revelation, very, very, very hard pill to swallow. I mean, there were some times where I didn't think I could bear it. The thought of it was so painful. I didn't think I'd be able to carry it and live through it. But what I've gotten from it is now I know what my role is, and I'm not overwhelmed by it. I don't, it's not an overwhelming thought. It makes perfect sense. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to go and start my work. I'm ready to go and create that bubble of energetic protection for souls coming into the new earth. And I know exactly what needs to get done, and I know the consequences of not following directions. Like last time I didn't follow directions, and how important it is, and it's also given me this feeling of responsibility, because if those messages are accurate, that the actions that I took 13,000 years ago created the Younger Dryas Cataclysm, if that is accurate, then it means literally every single person living on this planet is experiencing the consequences of my actions. The difficulty of living in this third dimensional life, I had something to do with that. because of my actions. And so it's very hard for me now to look at anybody and have judgment. I mean, I'm still human, but today I was walking around and every single person I was, interacting with at the store or at the gym or whatever was like, wow, this person is having challenges in life and I had something to do with that. And so it gave me a connection with all humans. Not only all humans that are alive now, but that means every single human that's existed on planet Earth from the fall of Atlantis until now. They have experienced at least some difficulties as a result of my decisions and my actions. And so that is why that was revealed to me, is so that I would now, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. I got work to do. And I'm not going to get overwhelmed with the magnanimousness of it all and the response. Nope, I know exactly what I got to do. Clearly I have that ability. We've been doing it in these meditations, so clearly I've got the ability. Let's do it. I'm ready to get started. Let's make this new world. And so the point of all that is that, this last video that I made, this one, I'm finally ready for 5D, goodbye 3D karma. It felt like I was saying goodbye to this earth. And I still have that feeling. I feel like I'm done. My life has accomplished everything it's supposed to accomplish. And there's nothing left for me to do here. And I sort of feel like all of my personal relationships have kind of all culminated and there's been some kind of karmic resolution, or there's people that are leaving my life. I've walked away from people and there are people that are leaving me. And it feels like it's time to pack up and move on to a new reality. So again, I'm not attached to any of this. We might all still be here, 10 years from now. I don't know. I can only tell you how it feels, but I've never felt what I'm feeling right now. There's a sadness, there's a melancholy, there's fear, insecurity, not knowing what's coming, and knowing that everything might change instantly overnight. Everything might end instantly overnight. Those feelings are all still there. But again, I have a clarity and an understanding of my whole life. I mean, I can look back at my entire life up until this point, and it all makes sense. Not only that, I can look back on all of my incarnations, those are the ones that I remember, and I do remember some of them. Some of them were really awful. Some of them, like in one, I was killed in the Huguenot massacre in France. I was killed in that. I was a priest, and I clearly remember. I can still see it in my mind. I can see the medieval streets, and I can see the wooden door of the church that I was priest of or pastor of or whatever. A pastor probably, because I was a Huguenot. And the whole village, hundreds of people, just showed up there, and they took me and they threw me out in the street and they nailed me to the door of the church and they tore my body to pieces. And I remember thinking, why? God, why? Why are they doing this to me? And I now know why all that stuff happened. I know, I can see all of the lessons that I've learned. And I can see the connection to that very important life in Atlantis where I made those very serious mistakes. And I can see the karma that had to be played out, as well as me. I had to punish myself, so that I could understand. And anyway, so that's where I'm at. The date, October 6th, showed up as I was waking up, a week or two ago, and I woke up one morning and saw a calendar with the date October 6th. Didn't get any messages, didn't get any feelings. Could have just been my brain making something up. But as we saw, we've got this comet that's heading, that we're going to see, that's going to pass in front of the sun on October 6th. And it's a comet that comes only once every 26,000 years. And so, who knows? All I know is how I'm feeling, and it wouldn't surprise me if this solar flash comes, and comes very soon. Would not surprise me. I mean, I'm sure I would have, who knows what my feelings are, but at least, it wouldn't be a complete, total surprise. I'd go, oh yeah, this was supposed to happen. So anyway, I will keep continuing to teach, keep continuing to upload these videos as long as we're all here. But my feeling is that it's time to go. And if you're having those same feelings, you're not alone. And my gratitude to this entire world, this 3D world, my gratitude to every single human I've interacted with, and my gratitude to all of you for supporting this channel and allowing me to share this knowledge with people. Anyway, we still got some time left, so I'm sure I'll make some more videos between now and then. But as I've said, I just want to be transparent and real and honest with you. And I've got nothing to gain. I'm not trying to get anything. So if I turn out to be wrong about all of it, I won't care, because I'm not trying to do anything. I'm done trying to accomplish things in this world. But until then, I'm going to sit around on the park bench and wait for the bus to show up. And if you want to hang out with me, you're welcome to do so. That's it, my friends. As always, please know that you're the most important being that has ever existed. And that the only thing you have to do to be lovable is simply exist. Because God doesn't need to do anything to be valuable and to be lovable, to be worthy of worship. God just has to exist. And you're God. So that's the only thing you have to do. And I honor you and worship you and thank you. And I look forward to wherever it is we're going to end up. And I look forward to meeting you all in the new 5D, whatever that is. I love you, my friends, and I'm sure I'll be uploading to you very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves.